All right. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for your patience. We appreciate it. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties here. Um, my name is Chazeen, for those of you who don't know me. I am the creator of Chaz Chats. I thank you for everybody who's been continuously supporting Chaz Chats. You guys have been to the Google event, you've been to the Namick event, you've been to the Samsung event, and you guys go hard sharing all the information. So extremely, extremely grateful. I want to thank you guys for hopping on this call, in particular, this event, this live stream rather, because this one is especially important. With all that's been going on lately, we all know we've been through it. You know, we've been through the ups and downs emotionally, and have felt insane, and have just kind of been like, what are my answers? What are my options? And so I really felt God lead me to like reach out to these great people. As you know, that's what Chaz Chats is about. Something triggers a thought here, and I'm like, hey, I want to know more, and I reach out to folks that I actually trust. So I'm super excited to have Chris Stewart on the line, and Kat Calvin, which we'll introduce them in a second. I'm also excited to have Dana Blair here to interview Chris Stewart and just let you guys know what your rights are. What are your civil rights? And I know some people will wonder sometimes or ask, like, does it even matter? But to me, it matters because I want to know when my rights are being violated. And honestly, that helps with if you need to file a case or a suit of some sort later, you need to know how you've been violated if that's the case. And truth of the matter is, not every cop is crazy. Some of them actually respect your rights, and so when you know those, you can practice them, you can implement them, and you can let them know, like, no, that's not something I'm gonna do. So once again, thank you guys. I want to introduce now. I want to bring my host, Madam Dana Blair, on the screen. Miss Dana, I appreciate you. She is a TV personality and producer extraordinaire. You guys might have caught her on Essence Live. You see her on EXO Nicole. Like, we see her all over the place right now, and I see you doing your social justice thing as well. So I'm really happy to have you here to do this interview. So I'm gonna let you take over. All right, and I'm gonna let you chat with Chris, and then stay tuned, guys, because we are also going to be talking with Kat Calvin of SpreadTheVote.org. This is a crash course for you. If you are still feeling unprepared, especially when it comes to mail-in ballots, you're like, I don't really know what to do, and I don't want to mess it up, because truth of the matter is Black and brown people and young people are most likely to have their votes not counted, and we don't want that. We're in a time where we need our votes to be counted, especially if you're trying to make sure that police accountability happens. This is the time. All right, y'all. So I'm going to pass it over to Dana. Let you take it over from here, girl.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction, and just to thank you for having me. This is a very important conversation, and just to build upon what you mentioned in the intro. I mean, I grew up with an advantage of my father is a sitting judge in the state of Louisiana. I come from a family of attorneys, and these conversations were a part of our um, the conversations in our household growing up, different points, and the conversations between myself and how my father addressed these issues with myself versus with my brother were different. And I think I took for granted that these were common conversations, and knowing my rights in certain capacities was just something that I grew up with. And so I'm extremely honored to be able to bring this conversation to everyone. Our featured guest is one of the most decorated African-American lawyers in the country. He has won numerous record-setting jury verdicts and made U.S. history when he won the first billion-dollar jury verdict for a rape victim. He is also recognized worldwide as one of the top civil rights lawyers of his generation, and has represented some of the most famous civil rights cases of the century that were captured on video, including Walter Scott, who was shot in the back on video by a police officer, as well as Alton Sterling from my home state of Louisiana, who was held down and killed on video by Baton Rouge, as well as numerous other high-profile cases, including Gregory Towns of Georgia, which led to a record 2 prison sentences for the officers that are involved. As CEO of Stewart Miller Simmons Trial Attorneys, everyone please help me welcome Mr. Chris Stewart. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Police brutality, right? Knowing how to interact with the police. For some, maybe the first signs were like back in 1991 with Rodney King, right? And then you got the riots in LA. Now everyone has a camera on their phone, and we're definitely thanks to digital media and social media, we're able to capture and spread that information. Before we jump into protocol and things of that nature, what are the biggest misconceptions of interactions with the cops?
There's so many. The first one is that every interaction is going to lead to one of those viral videos of you getting murdered.
Right.
That is just not true. There are some bad interactions, that happen, and it happens too frequently, especially if the person is a person of color. But if you have to do your part in that interaction,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll talk about that more, being calm, answering the questions that you need to, not answering the ones you don't need to, which lead to, further issues. And just like you read people on the street, reading that cop, does he seem crazy? Does he seem like, trying to figure out how they're coming at you, and making sure you don't return that negative energy.
And yes, we're definitely going to jump into that because I have so many questions around that. So let's just go ahead and start at the beginning, right? We mentioned that we see a policeman, whether it's in our rearview mirror or walking down the street, and they want to stop us and have some sort of dialogue, right? Or they're pulling us over on the side of the road. That already creates an anxiety. What should your first steps be? Is it taking your hands out of your pocket, or don't make any sudden moves? Is it turning the light on inside your car and keeping the hands on the steering wheel? Like, what should your first instincts be to set yourself up, if you will, for I don't want to say a positive experience, but to correctly position yourself in that situation?
I mean, crazy enough, I'm a civil rights lawyer, and I've done all these cases, and I still, if a cop gets behind me or you see a police car, you're still like, oh crap. Which is just, it's just crazy that thought is so ingrained in Black people's heads. But what I would do is already have my license and registration ready. Like if I see I'm getting pulled over,
Mm-hmm.
I know where my registration is. You should not have it in that situation where you're digging around in the glove compartment, and you're digging around in the center console. Know where your registration already is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, do have your hands, already up on the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is just not giving them a reason to escalate it.
Well, for me, for example, I think many women are like this, or many people who carry a bag, or even gentlemen who have wallets. It's in your back pocket. Or for me, it's in my purse that's either tossed in the back seat or on the seat next to me. Should I wait and not make any sudden moves? Because I think that's my biggest apprehension right now. Is we see over and over on video footage, like someone was reaching for that registration, or it was a purely innocent reach or move or gesture that has caused them great harm or the loss of their life. So is that something that we should wait until we're prompted by the officer to reach for it?
You can. I mean, if it's in a situation where it's, in your back seat, and you would have to literally turn around while trying to drive and pull over, and that would just be obvious. But if it's, in your purse next to you or in your pocket, I pulled my wallet out real quick before they even get up there, because I don't want to be reaching for my wallet if he's at the window.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are in a situation where they come to your window, you tell them verbally every single movement you're making.
Okay.
May I reach for my ID right now? It's in my back seat, or it's in my, wherever it may be. If you have a weapon in the car, which, a lot of people do, especially here in Georgia,
Right.
I inform them immediately that, my legally licensed weapon is in this car. I would like you to remove it, because I damn sure am not reaching for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole different discussion with, how to deal with that situation.
I will get to that, but I'm happy that you did say that. So we recently saw that went viral. Salehi Bembry, who's VP of Men's Footwear at Versace, he was in Beverly Hills, and when watching the video from one of the body cams, he asks for his ID, and then it's like he goes to reach for it in his pocket, and then he says, "Don't go in your pockets." Right? Would I or should I say? You mentioned asking the officer to remove the firearm. Should I say, "You can go in my purse"? Should I hand them over my purse, or should I say, "You can go in my pocket"?
Nah,
protocol because you're like asking for something, but I can't reach, I can't move, and now I feel like I'm at a stalemate.
Yeah, no, you give them your purse to get it. You've basically consented to a search of your entire purse, which you don't want that to happen. And you don't want them to go in your pocket because that's also consenting to, a full body search and not a pat down. It sounds really, really basic or silly, but I would say my wallet is in my right pocket. I'm going to reach for my wallet so I can comply with you and give you my ID. Is that okay? And then,
No,
they got to say yes or no. Because,
mm-hmm.
Why you have to like kind of be so technical with the interactions is because now 90% of cops have body cam and you want stuff on the record. That's
Right.
really what you're trying to do is you're trying to preserve things on the record so that when they do cross the line and break the law, it's clearly there because you're not going to win that interaction on the street. You're not going to win it.
Absolutely. But that brings me to a very good point. Body cams, is that something that's federally mandated right now? Should every officer have a body cam on them or on their person?
Every officer in the country should be required to wear one, but that's just not the reality we live in. Yeah, it's not the law. A lot of places out, South Carolina made every officer get body cams after we, got Walter Scott case. And, we worked that out. But, no, it's not required. It's just that most places are doing it because it protects, the citizens. It also protects the officers who are out there, doing their job.
Can I ask an officer when I'm stopped, like, do you have a body cam? Is it on? Can I ask that question, or is that triggering? And I no pun intended by that word, absolutely. But like, is that going to start to push the interaction in a direction I don't want it to go?
You shouldn't have to ask because in any interaction there, it's supposed to be on. So if it's not on, then that would be a big problem from the jump. But when they get out of that car, especially for something like a traffic stop, it automatically either comes on or they turn it on.
We've talked a lot about, or we've mentioned video cameras and recording in our cell phones and things of that nature, because police brutality and negative interactions with the law have always been around. We're just now able to see it more because of technology. Am I able to film the police officers with my cell phone? Am I able to do that?
Yeah, as long as you do not interfere or obstruct their investigation or whatever it is that they're doing. You could film other people getting arrested. You could film your interaction. The last time I got pulled over, I hit record on my cell phone. I wasn't holding it, pointing at them because you don't want to be doing that. Right. But I mean, my cell phone was recording video, even though it wasn't in my hand, and it was on the passenger seat. But yeah, you can record. The only thing you cannot do is obstruct their interaction that they're having. And that's where you hear all the time, like, back up, stop, what I can't, most of them don't say stop recording. They'll just be screaming at you like, back up if you're trying to film something. Back up. Because if you don't, then they're going to claim you were obstructing their arrest of that person or whatever it is. Just back up and keep filming. I mean, you don't have to. No, I don't have to back up. Just back up and keep filming. And most people, everybody's filming these interactions. Remember, you're holding the phone. Stop jiggling it around and talking to your friend and putting it down. Do you know how many cases I've had to try and look at where the only person who filmed it is literally the worst cameraman on the planet, but yet if it was like a Instagram video or YouTube video, they'd be filming it like a pro. Like, keep filming it. Don't put your phone sideways or down.
That
would help.
That's a very valid point. When you had your camera or your cell phone recording on the seat next to you, did you have to notify the officer that this is being recorded? Do I have to do that?
No, I mean, my phone's recording.
This is another thing that I was curious about. If I'm being stopped and I'm not able to access my phone because it's in my purse or whatever the case may be, do you advise against me yelling out, can somebody record this? Is that considered alarming?
I mean, You can. You just have to realize, I mean, if it's going to go to a certain level, somebody's going to start recording anyway. And it could, look, man, here's the thing with like a lot of cops. They're, as you said, they are triggered by certain kind of things. And so if they think you're amping it up, then they're going to amp it up. And
Right.
then if you're saying record this, then now they're operating, first of all, just off of a fear level.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you heighten their fear level goes up and they get more aggressive. And so it's one of those situations that you can't win, because the more scared they get, the more they're going to get physical,
Right.
Out of defense, which is why, when I do go around and talk to high school kids or even elementary school kids, I tell them, ignore these movies or shows where you see the person like screaming at the cop and cursing, I know my rights and you can't tell. And hell nah, that's not how you interact with, an officer. And you're not a punk for being polite or
Right.
for actually, trying to be technical. But cursing at a cop or, go wilding out, that's not going to end well.
That's never going to end well. So what are the say 3 things we should keep in mind when we're having that encounter? Is it our tone, our body language? Are there a couple of series of questions that we should maybe recite and be comfortable with asking in order to make sure that, okay, this is a positive interaction. He or she doesn't feel alarmed. I still feel comfortable, and like I'm within my rights during this interaction.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is remembering to be calm.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering that you are not going to win this interaction by punking them. It
Right.
is not going to happen. You're either going to end up getting your ass whooped or dead or being arrested.
Mm-hmm.
That's only 3 options that's going to happen. You're not going to win that battle. You win by being calm, not agreeing to stuff you shouldn't agree to, and getting home. And the next day, if they did something inappropriate or they said something inappropriate, you get a lawyer, or you either go down to the department yourself and you file a complaint, which nobody ever does. So you file a complaint, which is now on their record. But fighting them or arguing with them that night or trying to curse them out, thinking they're going to, oh, okay, you're right, and just leave you alone and drive off, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think so many people don't take the time to go file the complaints?
Because they think it's pointless. Because they're like, oh, that little complaint ain't going to do nothing. Yeah, it does. Because when I get one of these cases, like let's say Walter Scott or George Floyd, I get to look at all of these officers' arrest records and complaints and internal affairs reports. And so if there's nothing in there, it looks like he's a good dude. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had cases where the guy was notorious in a neighborhood, but yet he had nothing in his IA jacket because nobody would ever go like tell on him.
Mm-hmm. So we file a complaint. When we go to file that complaint, it's important for us to have, I'm assuming, their badge number
And the name.
and the name. And then what happens? Like, is it making sure that we have recurring follow-ups or whatever? What are our next steps? Because if you watch the news or social media, I can see how we feel that nothing ever happens, right? That there aren't any consequences. So what can I do to make sure that I'm an engaged citizen and I feel like not only am I doing my due diligence, but I'm making sure that the rights of others are not violated as well?
And the reality is, nothing's probably still going to happen, but at
Mm-hmm.
least you did something. I mean, at least you went
Dang,
and filed a complaint. I'm just trying to keep it real. Ain't nothing probably really going to happen unless he did something crazy, like really crazy, but it'll be in his file. And
Mm-hmm.
if it is a good chief or a good internal affairs department, then they will follow up and, try and see about that interaction. But, realistically, they're not like they're going to fire him.
But see, that hurts though, because I feel violated. Something has happened to me. A wrong has happened to me. I followed all the procedures. I, by the grace of God, live to go home to my family and friends. I have the courage and I follow the steps to now go to the police station or to the appropriate authorities that I need to go to file the paperwork. and nothing happens. How do we break that cycle? Because we can't allow another man or woman of color to be murdered in broad daylight, on camera, in their homes or on the streets before we take action to correct the situation and say, oh, so and so and so and so, they were a bad seed.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where who you choose and vote for matters. And I'm talking about local elections, not even like way up president stuff. Like, who's your mayor? Because they're going to appoint the chief a lot, or who's the chief of police? It's an election or whatever it may be, because they are the people that control oversight. So yeah, if it's a chief that really cares about that kind of stuff, then yeah, that complaint will end up getting reviewed. But there's just far too many where unless they shot or killed somebody or something just extremely excessive, it's just not gonna stick. But you still have to do it. You still have to file the complaint, or also following up with the citizen review board, if your city has one.
What is that?
And it's basically a board of non-police officers, for the most part, that are tasked with reviewing complaints against officers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cities don't have them because most police departments don't like citizen review boards, but they are drastically needed.
Mm-hmm. So first thing I need to do is make sure the community or city that I live in has a citizen review board. Would it be smart of me to seek the counsel of an attorney or secure an attorney if I have complaints in the community so that it's taken more seriously?
Yeah, if it's something that has escalated to a physical point, where they went past just like searching you or something like that, and they assaulted you, then yeah, you need to talk to a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Or if they did conduct, a search against your will and found some drugs or whatever, you need to talk to a lawyer, because you never even consented to that. That could get possibly thrown out.
What are the parameters of your right to either consent or not to them searching your vehicle or your person? What are those rules and regulations?
Yeah, and this is where it gets tricky. To be honest, it gets tricky because out there at the scene, the officer can say or do pretty much anything to try and come up with the reason to either search you or get in your car. Mm-hmm. Now, and then you also have to measure the situation of, is letting dude go in my pocket or search my purse or whatever it is, saying no to that, worth, from this dude's demeanor, him potentially killing me or whatever it may be. What I would suggest, for the most part, the only thing they can do is pat you down. Let's say, you're just walking down the street. Mm-hmm. They can frisk you for their safety, to just, excuse me, I need to just pat down for safety, make sure you're not armed or whatever. But they cannot just start going in your pockets, going in your purse without you consenting. And they're going to ask, do you mind if I search you? All you have to say is, I don't consent to, a search. Mm-hmm. And then they're probably, well, why not? Why, if you ain't got nothing on you, why wouldn't they search you? Just say, I'm just being respectful. But I just don't consent to a search.
Or can I ask them, do you have probable cause to search me? Like, what is your reason?
You can, but like then you get into that, like I said, those battles, like where all they're gonna, like, you're not gonna win it, even if you like pulled out a law book and were like quoting, but under statute 4.3, you can't, just know the base, like, you not consent to the search. They know what you're talking about. You don't even have to get into what is your reasonable suspicion for this, and you don't even have to do all that. Just, I don't consent to a search. I'm abiding by everything else you say. You wanted my ID. I gave it to you, though I'm not driving a car, so technically I didn't have to do that.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have, the only right they have is to ask for your identity, like for you to identify yourself. You're not driving a car. If you're walking on the street, you're not required to have a license. Unless you're using a motor vehicle. Like, you don't have to have a license. I know people that didn't get their licensed till they were like in their 20s. So you don't have to have a license. Most people have like identification of some sort, but all you really have to do is identify them, give you your full name, whatever it may be. You can choose to give them your license, which I would recommend if it's getting a little heated, or whatever it may be if nothing's on there. But you don't have to give them a license if you're just walking down the street and they just stop you for no reason.
Mm-hmm. If I don't have a license, if am just out and about, like I like to jog, I'm jogging in the morning, but I always have my license. But if for whatever reason I don't have that ID on me, what should I do?
Give them your full name and they'll
Mm-hmm.
probably run it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, see if you fit a description, or if a warrant's out, which will have a description of you, see if you meet it. They're just running your name. That's what they're really trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point. Yeah, when I jog, I still take my license out of my wallet and stick it in my shoe or stick it in my pocket or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But it's just not even worth battling over. If you know that you don't have a record, ain't no warrant out for you, just give them a damn license. Like, let them look at, like, whatever. I just want to get out of the situation and go home.
Right.
So even though you don't technically have to, if it's something that small, like, oh, let me see your license. All right, cool, shit. Like, let me just get out of this.
What is like the one thing that you would want someone to walk away from this dialogue in terms of their rights and their interaction with police? If there's nothing else that they remember from this conversation, what's that one thing?
You can control a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bad dudes out there that are just looking for situations that they can escalate, they are waiting for you to do something so they can escalate. Like, you curse at them. Oh, okay, now you are being unruly and I feel threatened. And I mean, they're not threatened, whatever. You just curse, like, but you gave them that, and
Right.
now they have that, and they're gonna put it in their report. Or if you snatch your license out of their hand, or you throw it at them, or just those minor things give them a reason to go far above and beyond what their response should be. And it may seem like, well, man, ain't nobody just gonna punk me, or I ain't gonna be, and that's fine. And if you got that mentality, I feel you. But then I'm gonna be representing you after you get shot, because you don't know what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what is going on in that officer's mind that you're dealing with.
Right.
And so you may think this is just going to be I'm bucking back at him, or I'm talking back, or I didn't punch him. I just touched him or shoved him. You can't even touch him. You cannot touch him. If you touch an officer, tell, oh, back off me, and put your hand on his chest or whatever, it's assault.
Wow.
No matter how you want to spin it. And once you do that, their entire registry of force opens up to where they could take that situation. And it's just not worth it. And I've seen too many cases and handled too many cases where it started with something so small, especially running.
You would think like that we're just regular citizens, and the officers are supposed to be the pros. They've gone through the training. You would think that the responsibility to keep the situation calm would not necessarily fall upon us. It would fall on the pro, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's a little.
It does though. But like, that's where I started. Every interaction is going to end badly, because I know it's like not cool to say, there are a lot of cops that like are phenomenal and do their job. I mean, there just are. People like, I know the focus is on like the bad ones and like the cases that I handle, and Ben and, Lolita and everybody. But I mean, there are good cops out there. And I mean, people, we have interactions with them all the time. But you don't know which one you're dealing with.
Right.
So that's why you should just handle each situation still calmly. And you have to take it upon yourself to not give them justification or any kind of reason to be deviant.
Different lawsuit claims. If by chance you filed your complaint, you followed the processes, and then it may escalate to a lawsuit. Is it wrong to accept a government assigned attorney? Should we seek a specialist such as yourself? Like, what should our next step be?
I mean, if most people that accept a government provided lawyer, it's mainly financial. I don't do criminal law. We do civil and civil rights. But yeah, if you can afford a lawyer, it's always best to try and get, a private lawyer if you can. But if a lot of people just don't have the option.
Glad you mentioned that. Can you explain the difference between, like we often see cases, I think maybe OJ may have been everyone's first look at this, where something may or may not have played out well or a certain way in a criminal trial, but then went to civil. Can you explain those differences for our audience?
Yeah, the criminal case is not really handled by people like myself or all the other civil rights lawyers you see. We're not the ones, and it's really it's mind blowing when you see how many people think you're the one that's supposed to like prosecute the cops or do this. That's not what we do. There is a prosecutor, and that's their job. They prosecute the cops. We help the family and we try and get attention to the case or whatever it may be. But the prosecutor is the one in there for the criminal case, trying to get the cops behind bars and arrested. And we assist, so that's the criminal side of it. The civil side is us filing the lawsuit, going to trial, going to court. And that is for monetary damages and changes in policy or procedure or policing for the family, for the survivors.
It seems like in a lot of these cases that the court system is okay with rewarding something financial, but not punishing those that actually committed the crimes. Can you share, as a law professional, how do you feel about that? Is that the right approach to have? Is that the right sentiment to have to that circumstance? It seems like you're more comfortable with rewarding X millions of dollars than this person actually losing their job.
No, they're both nearly impossible. That's the sad reality of it. Civil rights cases do not pay. I mean, we may read about one out of 300 that, we are about the Breonna Taylor settlement, or people will remember Walter Scott. Walter Scott was like 6 years ago, and there's not been anything like close to it till recently. Like it's not, they purposely have the law so messed up, even for the civil side, it's nearly impossible to get a city to pay the family for killing their loved one, which is terrible, because if that officer had been in his car and hit somebody, then it wouldn't be an issue. Like they'd have to take care of it. But because he shot him, it's a different ballgame. Like it's insanity.
Really?
And yeah, and a lot of times the cities will not insure their officers. So even if they did something horrible, or the city would just say, well, yeah, that sucks for him, but we're not doing anything about it. And for the criminal side, it's just, with the way that immunity works, and, a lot of people just not understanding what it means to hold an officer accountable, and prosecutors being scared to actually try and arrest or indict an officer because of, political climate.
Politics, yeah.
They just won't do it. I mean, I've had district attorneys tell me before, they're not going to prosecute this cop because they want to keep their job. So,
Then what can you do with that? Is so you now have this knowledge. Say you have this knowledge and you're representing me. What do we do with that? Because that's a very real predicament. That's a very real scenario.
You must know who your district attorney is in your city, and their record, like their history for protecting the community. If there is a officer involved, use of force situation, you cannot have a district attorney that's scared to do their job. And no one really pays attention to who the district attorney is.
Yeah,
they think it's just for like the criminal cases, for the gangs and for the drug dealers and stuff. And yeah, that's part of what they do, but they also are the person that's responsible for prosecuting a cop that kills somebody.
It all goes back to voting and being involved. So once I've gone through this process, I've had my interaction. Say if it's hopefully it's a favorable interaction. If it's not, I file a complaint. What paperwork am I entitled to? What should I leave that office with?
You mean when you go down to file a complaint?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll give you they'll probably give you a case number for whatever your complaint was, and say they're going to follow up with you to conduct an interview, which they probably will do.
Are you optimistic about us creating and seeing real systemic change in our lifetime as it pertains to this matter?
I hope so. I mean, I thought everything was going to change with Walter Scott, that was bad. But now it's so long ago, people forget. Like, wait, I remember that case. That was like the George Floyd back then. Like that case was just everywhere. And, we started making changes, things were happening, and then people went back to their normal life. And all the people that are on social media went from posting about it to back to memes and jokes and stuff. And we just went back to our regular life. It's what happens all the time. And so I know George Floyd's big right now in Arbery and a couple of other cases that we're, helping on. But as soon as, COVID lockdown ends, people just going to go back to their normal life like usual. But we can't let that happen.
No, we have to stay diligent. We have being prompted. We have some Q&As right now. Folks in our audience would like to ask you a couple of questions. So we should have our first question coming up. In just a moment.
So it's
Here we go. Thing that might be on our screens here. Or I might get prompted that question in just a moment. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. We have so many great questions. This is a good one. What should someone do once they are placed in police custody as soon as they arrive to the police station?
What should they do?
So you're now in police custody, right? What is that process like? What should you ask for if there's something that you should ask for once you get to the police station? Are there certain rights and things that you are entitled to that you should be sure to ask for or make it known that you should have access?
The main thing is shut up. Don't say anything. You have the right to remain silent. You can't talk your way out of it if they already got you in cuffs. No, that wasn't mine. That was my. Just shut up. Just don't answer any questions. Just be quiet. Because you're going to do more damage than than help. They're not going to let you out of the cuffs by you talking your way out of it. Right. All they're going to do is now have you on camera admitting something that they wouldn't even known, and then asking for a lawyer, which you're entitled to.
Ask for your lawyer. What your one phone call, right? Who should that phone call be to? Who should you call?
Man, it depends what time, because I know after a certain time, half my boys ain't answering their phone. It better be to that family member that you know is going to get up and come bail your ass out. Because, you better, it just better be to someone that's going to answer.
That's fair. If you're scared, can you drive to your nearest police station for safety, or will the officer feel more reasons to harass you? So I'm assuming what the person meant is that after you've had a police interaction, can you go directly to the police station?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to the police station to file your complaint, or if they were asking like if you're getting pulled over, can you drive to the station for like your safety? Nah, if you're
Yes.
getting pulled over, you need to pull over. And that's been a question I asked, like, well, maybe I should keep driving to a place that has more people around or a gas station. Not
Mhm.
pull over, because if you keep driving, now they're going to say you were fleeing.
So, hey, you know what, officer, in the middle of the interaction, I don't feel comfortable. Can we go to the police station for safety or for I don't know. I'd feel more comfortable if this was happening with more people around.
Nah, that ain't how it works. If they got reason to pull you over, um, they're not going to say, all right, let's get back in our cars and I'll follow you all the way to the gas station or police station. No, I
Mhm.
mean, pull over safely, try maybe pull over to if you see a stoplight, pull over to a well-lit area, but pull over,
Mhm.
because they're going to say you were fleeing if you keep driving. Someone asked me one time, well, what if I drive real slow, like 10 miles per hour to like a gas station? All right, that's still fleeing. And by that time, they're going to have to call 20 more vehicles to come, and they're going to say you were fleeing. So, or they're going to come literally as soon as you pull over, after driving to a safe spot in your mind, they're going to come up running with their guns out.
Mhm.
Like, why would you keep driving when you knew, you were getting pulled over? Get out the car, and it's just going to be all hell breaking loose.
Mhm. At that point, you've escalated the situation
Yeah,
further.
because you saw the lights behind you, you heard them saying pull over, and you just
Mhm.
kept riding, and now they have reasonable suspicion that you were doing something criminal.
You know what about the opposite of that? They're just behind you and they're just following you. No lights. It's no nothing over a loudspeaker. But yes, they're definitely okay. They're turning right with me. They're turning left with me. They are definitely following me home.
Yeah,
Or
and that happens all the time. Especially if you're black in the wrong neighborhood.
mhm.
In their mind. But just keep calm. That's the big thing. Keep calm. Don't break any traffic laws, because you blow that stop sign, or if you do that U-turn where you're not supposed to, they're just waiting for legal justification to stop your car.
Mhm.
And if you don't give it to them, then if they do stop your car, then they already know it's been a illegal stop. So they're just hoping to see if you blow a traffic situation, or they're just a jerk and they're just trying to intimidate you by following you around for a second.
Mhm.
You probably deal with a jerk every day at your job, so just deal with it for a second and keep driving and go home.
Stay calm.
Like
Yeah.
you know that
Uh,
we do. We deal with jerks all the time, and they're
mhm.
not necessarily in a police uniform, and you don't, so you know how to deal with situations like that.
But the only difference is sometimes the way I would deal with the jerk that's not
See,
uniform in a position of authority might be a little different.
yeah, but you know what I mean. Like,
I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
it's just in that situation, like, the
Mhm.
guy's just being a jerk. Like, just, it is what it is. Ain't nothing you can do about it anyway. You can't stop the car, get out, and be like, stop following me.
Right.
Like, just drive safely and, get out of there.
We have a follow up to our conversation a little bit earlier about the DA. Um, that someone wants to know, how could a DA lose their job by prosecuting a cop?
Oh, that's a good one.
Can you explain that? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all political. Yeah, what will happen is, sometimes the police union, who does not support like officers getting arrested or anything like that, they will take away support for that DA for the next election or during that election. They'll raise money, for the opposition. Um, there's a lot of ways that they can lose their job. Uh, you know, it's it's political,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a lot of interested parties. And sadly, just black people, we don't have as much political clout in a lot of these elections or situations,
Mm-hmm.
um, to make sure good district attorneys or good mayors or whatever it may be keep their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is probably like, the biggest weakness other than some of these police policies and rules. But, we don't have, or we're not aware of our power
Yeah.
in local elections. We're always like president election, and then people go back to like regular life. But like, there's a local election all the time
Right.
in like your city, and those matter. The local judge, the state judge, the
Mhm.
DA. I mean, those matter. Those matter as much as who's in the White House.
Mhm. If you feel, I think this is a great question. It reminds me of something that my brother experienced when he was younger. Um, when you're stopped, you have an interaction with an officer, and you feel that they're, soon as you see them, the first words out of their mouth are just hostile and you're like, whoa, this is alarming or jarring. How do you de-escalate that situation? Like, what can you say or do? Is there anything you can say or do?
Just trying to remain calm. I mean, I've had, college. Me and my friends were just hanging out in the parking lot, and cops rolled up, guns out, in our face. Like,
Especially in New Orleans.
yeah, but I mean, there's no reason. We had done nothing.
Right.
We were just hanging in the parking lot, and they literally rolled up, hopped out the car with their guns already out in our face. And we were just so shocked. The only thing we could do was put our hands up, and we're like, "What in the hell? Like, what?" And it wasn't us they were even looking for, which is the stupid part. But the only thing we could do was give them their, they asked for our ID, uh, you know, frisked us, and realized they had the wrong people, and kind of kept it moving. But I mean, there was nothing we could do. We were all mad as hell. If I would have known about reporting the officers and how that would have mattered, then I would have reported them, because, that's extreme. Actually having the gun out at our face, like, that's something that will be in, their record. Not, not them just like, messing with us, like, trying to search, but like pulling your guns out and pointing at a citizen, that
is aggressive.
That's a big no-no.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate so much of your time. I'm going to have to pass it back. But Chris, thank you so much. And I know I was firing off a lot of questions. There were just so many great points and so much information that we wanted to be able to cover in a short amount of time. But thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, and have a beautiful evening. And now I pass it back to the one and only Chaz Chats, Miss Chazeen.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. All right, that was a really good conversation. I saw you guys, the comments in there. I'm happy that everyone is feeling fulfilled. I saw comments like, you're happy to be here, you're glad that you came, you stumbled across this, you're super happy. So really quickly, I want to run through some things with Kat Calvin from Spread the Vote. So Kat, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. So really quickly, I just wanted you to run us through crash course. What are the things we should be looking out for right now when it comes to voting, so that we can make sure our vote gets counted?
Yes, absolutely. I will give the world's fastest crash course, because I know we're running over time. So really quickly, when we're looking at making change in the criminal justice system, voting is a really important tool, right? It's not the whole movement, but it's part of it, and it's a very important part. And when you're looking at the different pieces of the criminal justice system that you want to change, you want to look at, for instance, the police chief is appointed by the mayor in almost every city in America. So if you don't like the police chief or the police commission, then you need to look at who the mayor is. If you're looking at the district attorney, which we just heard some discussion about, they are elected. Sheriffs are mostly elected. Attorneys general are elected or appointed by the governor. So you can know which of that is the case in your state, and then either pay attention to who's running for AG or what your governor says. Same thing with how the Department of Corrections is run in your state. That is controlled by the governor. So it's really important that you take a look at what are the pieces of the criminal justice system that I am upset with, right? Is it judges? Judges, a lot of different types of judges are elected, and then others are appointed usually by the governor, right? And so you need to look at, am I angry about everything, which we should be, or am I specifically like we have a terrible district attorney, right? We have a very contentious race here in Los Angeles for a district attorney. And, I really need to pay attention to that. I need to pay attention to what my mayor says about police funding, because he is the one in cities, either the mayor decides or the city council or some sort of hybrid, right? And so it's really important that you pay attention to what those elected officials are saying, because particularly in a case right now when we're all voting, this is the chance to replace someone you don't like with someone who adheres maybe a little closer to your values. And then in the future, you can even recruit people to run or run yourself if there's not someone who you think really represents your values. But you want to take these opportunities that we have to vote in someone new, and then spend the rest of the year marching and camping out in their office and all of the other things. But voting is a really critical piece to changing the system.
You made a really good mention about, those are really good mentions. And you said a lot of people don't vote for judges often, right? They skip over that part, unfortunately. Okay, so thank you for letting us know that. I know we got to wrap, but really quickly, mail-in ballots. Like, what are the biggest mistakes, or give us the top 2 that people are making right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, sign the back of your envelope, please. Sign the back of your envelope. And then if you live in a state that requires witnesses, then be sure you get a witness. We're having a big problem in North Carolina right now where Black ballots are being thrown out at higher numbers than ever before. And a lot of it is not getting witnesses. You could go to readtheeffingdirections.com. It's Spread the Vote's website with directions for all 50 states plus DC on exactly what to do to make sure your ballot is counted.
I'm glad you mentioned that website because I had the opportunity to check it out. Like, I know you told me about it before, and I was like, oh, the way you guys lay out everything, it's so clear. And because initially, you know, I think voting website, I think chunk of blocks and blocks of paragraphs, and it just feels a little like, you know, makes me anxious. I'll just be honest. I know a lot of people feel that way. So yeah, the site is legit, guys. You guys should definitely hop on there for information on your mail-in ballots. So I really appreciate. Oh, what's the site again? Someone asked. So the site is. Can you say the site again? I'll type it in.
Read the effing FING directions.
Okay, we're getting some feedback. All right, so I'm gonna bring everybody else back on really quickly. We want to thank you guys once again for being a part of this. Just really quickly, if you can tell us like where we can find you, what you're up to. You know, just these people want to know more. I'm seeing the comments. So let's start with you, Chris.
You can find me at Stewart Miller Simmons. Like I said, we're a civil law firm and do civil rights, and also at Chris Stewart _ESQ. And I don't know what city you'll find me in because I'm always traveling around doing something.
Yeah, you're working on the George Floyd case right now, the Ahmaud Arbery. Like, this man is busy. Do you sleep?
No, I'm going to start that though. When I figure out what that is, I'm going to start doing it.
I'm with you. Okay, Kat.
You can find us at spreadthevote.org. We're at spreadthevoteus on all the socials, and I'm at Kat Calvin LA on the socials.
Awesome, and I just typed that in, spreadthevote.org. Okay, and Dana.
I am at Just Dana Blair on the socials, predominantly Instagram because I find social media as a whole overwhelming, or justdanablair.com, freelancing predominantly in the entertainment and pop culture space, but of course also in the social activism space as well.
All right, so thank you guys once again. I know we got a late start. We appreciate you. Thank you to all the guests and the hosts. Like, great conversation.
Thank you.
Just thank you for donating your time to this effort. And like, little do you know, you never know how you're affecting somebody. Like, this might very well potentially save a life. You never know, you know, because this information we're going to pass on to everybody we know. Guys, definitely spread the information. We have 2 more events tomorrow and Thursday. So if you thought this was good, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with anyone whose life you value. It's important. All right. So thank you again, guys. You can find me on Chazeen.com. And thank you, Kat. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dana. Signing out. All right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.